March 1945 was cold and sticky, like the mud beneath her boots. She walked to her position without a name, only with a number, a rifle, and a habit of not thinking about those in her sights. Her capture happened suddenly, not heroically, without a final shot. An explosion, smoke, strange hands. When the bag was torn from her head, she saw stone steps descending and smelled damp and incense. A church basement. There was no shouting there was conversation. The officer spoke quietly, almost politely, as if they were sitting at a table and not underground. He knew her real name and didn't mix up dates. He knew where she was from, how long she'd been at the front, how many times her hits had been confirmed. He didn't beat her, at least not the way she expected. He did worse. He made her listen and watch. There were others in the basement, 2 Soviet prisoners, a blank-eyed German deserter, and a woman with graying hair accused of aiding the partisans. The officer posed questions as if offering a choice. If she remained silent, one died. If she answered, the other. He spoke of the war as a bill that would have to be paid anyway, and smiled when she realized she had no choice at all. On the second day, he brought her a rifle, someone else's, heavy, without a scope. He brought her closer than she had ever shot. He told her that one of the prisoners was a traitor, and if she fired, the others would be released. She knew it was a lie. She knew it as clearly as she knew the trajectory of a bullet. But she also knew that if she didn't fire, they would all be killed. The shot, point blank, was short and dull. Afterward, the basement grew quieter, and inside her there was emptiness, not from horror or guilt, but from the disappearance of something that had once held the border. On the third day, the officer stopped playing. He talked about what would happen afterward, about how the war would end, how the Allies would count papers, and how people would hide the past under new names. He named 20 names, slowly, clearly, so she would remember them. Officers, non-commissioned officers, translators, those who had gone through the same cellars and would remain without trial. He said he was leaving her alive deliberately, as a witness, as a weapon that would fire later. There was no triumph in his voice, only confidence. When artillery shelled the block, she escaped on her own. No one freed her. Victory came without her. Home remained somewhere behind the lines of reports and orders. For some, she died. For others, she disappeared. The NKVD sought her as a threat, the British as an opportunity. She walked through the ruins of Germany, where the walls still remembered the fire, and people learned not to look into their eyes. She found her first name in the suburbs. He worked in a warehouse, wearing someone else's jacket and smiling at his neighbors. She looked at his hands and remembered the basement. This wasn't a return to the war, it was a continuation of a conversation begun underground. She wasn't seeking revenge. She closed the doors one by one, knowing the last one might slam shut on her too. With each name, the list grew lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because the steps grew shorter, heavier because the faces ceased to be shadows. The war didn't end with the last shot, it simply changed the distance. And each time she pulled the trigger, she asked herself not about right, but about necessity. If she stopped, did that mean the basement had won? When the last name remained, she didn't know where she would go next. Maybe nowhere. Maybe upward for the first time, toward the light. But while the list wasn't empty, she kept going, because the war had killed the person inside her, and she was trying to figure out if it was possible to bring him back, or at least bury him properly.